Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am so thrilled to be here. It's so interesting. Sometimes it seems good morning. Good morning. I am it's telling me that I have new options on here that I have to look at, and I really don't actually have time at the moment to look at them. But, it's so funny because sometimes when you click on something, you don't see it until you are in the midst of using it. And so it doesn't do a lot of good, especially if I am trying to make my seven, whatever ish time slot. So I am so thrilled to be here, you guys. This is the final day of August and of 2022. I hope it has been amazing for you as it has been amazing for me. I will tell you straight off that all this week my schedule has been thrown off. Last night I have a class. Last night was the last and final class of a series of classes. I think it went like 13 or 14 weeks, which kept me up to midnight on Tuesday nights. And since you all know I get up in the 5 a.m. hour, it was kicking my butt. And so that Tuesday kind of leaked into Wednesday, Thursday sometime. And now that I am, Sunday night I was out late, Monday night I was out late, last night I was up late. And so hopefully I will be back on track and get some much needed catch up on my rest. Because one of the things we know is that once it's gone, I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to catch up. So I am thrilled to be on there. I'm also thrilled about the section that we are in. The interesting thing is that we are near the final chapters of this book. And so it will look like this book will not last throughout the thing. So I am going to predict that sometime in the next 3 weeks, I will be finished with this book. So so I'll be shifting up a little bit, changing to something else, and probably a little different with the format of how we're doing this. But never fear, because I have this commitment to what it is that I do here. So I am so honored to do this. Now, and so, waking up late throws my mornings off. I will say that to you. Because I've gone to bed late, it throws me off, which means I get up a little later, which means that I don't get to hit all of my marks. So my meditation is shrunk down to instead of getting like a full 20-30 minutes meditation, my meditation has been steadily shrinking. And today I don't even know that I got 5 minutes in. And a lot of other things kind of suffer when you are, when you crunch your mornings into 45 minutes instead of the hour or whatever that I usually have. I have more than an hour normally. And I even my workouts are like, if I go out there and I jump rope, I try to get in like, okay, jump 1, 2, 3, 4, all of that stuff. And it's just crazy. So I still have the commitment to doing all the stuff that I was doing, but there are some things that do fall off. So so whatever the case may be, I hope that yours is more regimented and that you get something out of the routines that you establish. Because I think the routines are do some amazing stuff for each and every one of us. Like, um, beyond like needing a shower to keep your body clean, sometimes a shower is washing off the old. It's like washing off a layer of whatever may have residue may have developed in the previous day. And so as you rinse that residue off, there is a reset. Some I had a girlfriend when her baby was little. She would say all she had to do was give her a warm bath, like not even put her in the water, but heat up a towel, a towel, and then wipe the baby's body down, and it was a signal for the baby to go to sleep. So even whether it was at night before she went to bed or when she wanted her to go to sleep at another time, she would wipe her down with this warm cloth, and that was a signal that it's time to go to sleep. For each and every one of us, we get to do and establish our own resets, right? I don't know what your reset is, but if you have not thought about like, what is my reset? Get you one, right? I don't know if it's going to be a warm shower for you, a cup of coffee for you. If it is, sometimes it's washing your feet, giving yourself a mini massage, whatever that may mean. But there is something that you can do that settles your soul, or that lets go of what was and comes into the moment. We all need something like that. Mine sometimes is my breath, even if I just become aware of how I'm breathing or how deep I'm breathing, that allows me to reset. I mean, it's just like, and when I catch my breath, it reminds me that I'm connected to everything that breathes. I breathe with the trees. I breathe with the animals. I breathe with all this stuff. I breathe in unison with it. The air that you breathe out, I breathe in. It is all part of a collective for me. And so I've got an easy reset if I need something that's immediate. I don't know, like I keep saying, I don't know what yours is, but I think all of us need a way to tap in and to remind you that all is well in the world, that peace is available right here and right now, that you can shift in your mindset, in your thinking. I also like when people ask me how I'm doing, because it reminds me that I'm fabulous, that I'm wonderful, that life is awesome, right? And that becomes a reset. What's yours? And just give some thought to it. So I want to read this. I'm going to read something out of my daily guides from Science of Mind magazine. It is coming down to the end of the month. And like I said, I haven't gotten all of my stuff in this week. So I still have Mondays on tap. It's a less known Tuesday and Wednesday. And so before I don't want to take old stuff into the new month, right? So it's like a line of demarcation. Let me do closeouts, right? I'm gonna do some closeouts. And so what's your closeout? So I'm gonna do this now, and I'll do the other two during the course of the day. But remember, like even yesterday's drama, yesterday's stuff, whatever it was that gets you, don't take it into the next day with you, right? Make a determination. Even I love that Dr. Brown on Thursdays, which is tomorrow, Dr. Brown says have a nightly routine where you come into a space and review the course of your day. So how was I? How did I show up, right? And And then if there were places where you fell short or you didn't do what it was that you wanted to do, ask why, and can you do something different or better tomorrow? So we can, at every point, we don't have to wait till New Year's to make resolutions. We can do it the night before. He said that there is a reason why the new day begins at midnight, not in the morning when you wake up, but at midnight. And so that so determine not to take things past that midnight hour into the next day. Put it to bed, put it to rest. And we got I don't know about you, but I try to do a lot of, most of my stuff like that. Like just, and sometimes it is, and you'll know this from watching me on here. Sometimes it is, let me just get this out. Let me get this off my chest. And the moment I speak it out or I write it down in my journal, then that's like closing the book on it, right? And so we can close the book on our stuff, right? It's not that hard. It just determine to not let yourself be dictated to by the ruminations of your mind. If you can think of, sometimes we have that little thing on our shoulder that's telling you, speaking to you, blah, 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 blah. Determined to not do, to let it rule the way that you think, because yeah, it's not. So this is called, ironically, this was for Monday. It's called I Make My Tomorrow Today. The first quote is by Natalie Angier, maybe that's it, Angier. So the quote is, the beauty of the natural world lies in the details. The beauty of the natural world lies in the details. And from Ernest Holmes, the time is now, the place is where we are, and it is done unto us as we believe. I love that. I love that. I love that. That's out of the Science of Mind book, page 152, in case you are one of those that actually has the Science of Mind book, and mine's is right behind me on the shelf. Ooh, I forgot to put my book back on the shelf. As metaphysicians, I don't know if you know about metaphysicians, but as metaphysicians, I love that word. We believe the essence of a thing does not exist in its form, but in the thought that precedes it. That's so good. Accepting the expansive nature of life, it seems obvious that what we think today must become enhanced and expanded in form tomorrow. Oh, this makes me want to tell y'all about a show that I used to watch. It was called The Twilight Zone. It's a powerful little segment I saw. What I know to be true in this minute is a shadow of the potential in the next. The universe conspires to evolve. An acorn becomes an oak tree, a child becomes an adult, rain becomes a river, a bulb becomes a flower, an idea becomes a thing, fear becomes enlightenment, consciousness continues its ever-moving process of flowing towards truth. The universe always enhances. What we know to be true today is actually a limited reflection of what will be true tomorrow. There is something greater at work here, more powerful, present, and clear than what I know today. I trust this process and I await its unfoldment. I plant the seeds of my experiences tomorrow with care today. The thoughts, beliefs, and actions I take are always pregnant with my desires for tomorrow. I am careful with my thoughts and actions, knowing They are the cause of my future effects. The affirmation is, I live and think today what I want tomorrow. Oh, that is so good, y'all. That is so amazingly good. And I don't know. So what is your desire for your future? What is your desire for tomorrow? Good morning, Ruth. Good morning, darling. What is, so you have to think about that, right? And when you operate out of fear, I always think of fear as this bottomless pit that no matter what you throw in it, you never find ground. If you're digging a hole, right, and you've got a bottom in the hole, you can feel that hole, right? That is something, there's a solid to it, and whatever you put on top of it builds it up. But if you are throwing something into a bottomless pit, you're just throwing stuff in there and it's doing absolutely nothing to build up. So fear is like that. And a lot of times we don't know when we're in fear. And that's one of the reasons why, as we meditate or we do the work that we're doing, that you pay attention to the feeling you have and give it a name, so to speak, right? So you know what fear feels like in your body. And fear is different from anxiety. Fear is different from excitement. Fear is different from a lot of things. Know what it feels like to be in fear so that you can call it out when you see it, so that you don't let it dictate your actions. So one of the things I do is I move towards fear, right? If there is something that is causing me fear, I need to press forward instead of backward. I had a dream last week, and I'm gonna get started in this book, but I had this dream last week, and in my dream, I was driving at the time, and I was unable to maneuver the car. It just seemed like I was in the dream and my body was paralyzed. I needed to step on the brake. I needed to change lanes. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. It's like like what happens to you in a nightmare. You want to scream out, but you can't do anything. And so I remember that my sister was in the seat next to me in this dream, and I wanted her to take the wheel. But to her, looking at me, it seems like I was in control, but she couldn't see that I couldn't press the gas or the brake. She couldn't tell that I couldn't move my head and turn. And so I'm like trying to tell her, please take the wheel because I cannot drive the car anymore. And there was this terror that rose up in me because she wasn't moving. She was standing up there, sitting there asking me, well, what's wrong with you? And, so inside I'm screaming like, take the wheel. And she is not like responding to the urgency that I feel in my dream. And then as I was feeling this fear in my dream, I caught myself and I said, Sandra, this is a dream. I was able to get a hold of my emotional self and ask myself, what is this about? What's going on for you in this moment? And then I just needed to relax because it was the fear that was preventing me from being able to react in the way that I was. All is well. I even told myself I'm safe in my bed. There is nothing here that can harm me. I was present in my dream to calm myself. Now, what more can we do in our waking moment to calm ourselves, right? When the fear rises up, what can we do to calm ourselves? I mean, there is a dialogue that is possible, whether you're asleep or awake, because there is a powerful being within you, and all peace resides there. So I just thought that, even as I came away from that dream, um, I was thinking to myself how powerful it was for me to just get that recognition that all is well. No matter what comes up, all is well. We gotta, a lot of times we just do negative self-talk. We don't do reaffirming self-talk. We don't give ourselves a atta girl. We're so busy trying to get likes from somebody else. Sometimes we got to give our own self that thumbs up, right? That all is well. Now, I won't probably forget that in that dream that the car that was in front of me was a purple car. And I felt like I was about to run into the back of it. I even asked self, what is the significance of a purple car? Right? Why that car? Why? Why feeling like I'm powerless when I'm behind the wheel, behind that car? So all of that is stuff that just kind of we unpack as we go through. And I know for me, I have been dreaming quite often. And so I'm paying attention to the dreams that come up, especially those that I'm feeling that level of anxiety and fear in. But since I had that conversation that I was telling y'all about the other day with my mother, I haven't felt that same level of anxiousness and anxiety. So we are working out of this book. It Didn't Start With You. And I'm actually on page 207, which is in a chapter that is called The Core Language of Success. It's chapter 13, The Core Language of Success. And and so one of the things that he started out talking about was in this chapter, this is all about sometimes why it is that we can't make our tomorrows happen, right? The desire that we have for ourselves, how we see ourselves, whether it's the money that you want to make or the position that you want to have or the friendships or whatever it is, why we don't feel as if we are successful in there, what blocks us. And so we talked about before that a lot of times it's the early separation from our mothers that do it. Sometimes it is stuff in our family lineage, like if you felt like your grandfather was had no integrity when he dealt with other people. So he would talk about how rich his grandfather was, and yet he employed these migrant workers and only paid them pennies. If your family was somehow involved in the enslavement of others and was unduly enriched by the labor of others, there might be some residual stuff that happens for you. There are a lot of things that build up in people over time, in their energy, in their DNA, that prevents them from fully experiencing these moments. So if we are carrying things from these hungry ghosts that are in our family line or even attached to the family line, because sometimes when, say, for instance, you rob a person, get undue inheritance, do some kind of trickery, the conversations of even the stories in the Bible of, stealing somebody else's inheritance, or give me my money now. Even the rocks, it says, cries out for justice. And so these things can still be impactful today, and unless and until we then try to clean up that energy that is ours. And sometimes it is just helpful to acknowledge that the energy is there, that is a place within us that has resonance. How do we find that out? Through developing core language. What's the core language? What am I most afraid of? So when you ask yourself, what am I? What do I fear the most? that becomes part of your core language. So in here, John Paul, who we talked about the other day, his core language was, I could get rejected. I could make the wrong move and lose everything. Loretta's core language was, I don't deserve what I have. I don't deserve to have what I get. Ben's core language is, I'm just surviving, barely, I barely have enough. And so, depending upon what it is that is your greatest fear around these things, Elizabeth's was, is they'll reject me, I'll be left out, I won't fit in, I will be all alone. What's your greatest fear, right? If you ask yourself the question, what is your greatest fear? What comes up? And then you can ask yourself, whose is this? Is this mine? Right? Is it mine? It could be that you will feel like they'll reject you because you've been rejected in the past. You may feel like you don't deserve something, not because it was yours, but because you've seen it happen over and over again. A lot of times in our community, we've got these mantras that we say, and they're not even our experiences. But you'll hear people say things like, last hired, first fired. And that's the energy that they carry because there was something in them that said that this was true. And so then it becomes the truth that you live out. I mean, I hope you can understand it in that kind of way. It becomes the way that you operate and you maneuver in life. Almost like you throw up your hands even before anybody taps you on the shoulder. Sometimes we start, we start acting out like, I know this is what's about to happen. I know that I'm going to be. And so what does it become? Because what you think about, what you think about, you bring about. You call to you certain experiences. And so if that's the experience you're calling towards you, they have no choice but to help oblige you in that. Because now your energy is set up. You start getting angry and grumpy about things that hadn't happened yet. You start making all kind of errors and mistakes because you think all the eyes are on you and that they already have a plan and an agenda. Wonder if you started saying something different over your life, right? Wonder if you just, everybody loves you, right? And feel like, that you are an integral part. I don't know how to put that in a mantra for you, but once you start to work on a mantra that becomes yours, it becomes your set point, like we started off talking about. That thing that you say or you do, or that you can realign your thinking with where you desire to be. I heard this, there's an energy around us. It permeates our space. It is who we are, what we project into the world. And a lot of times we don't know that. So say for instance, if this woman was saying they'll reject me, I can imagine the energy that you have to carry that says, or that ensures that you will be rejected. It becomes the dark cloud that surrounds you. It becomes how you are. You come into this space with the they'll reject me kind of mentality, which ensures that they reject you. Because you've already got the energy within you. It's not the people's responsibility to do your work. It's your responsibility. Everywhere I go, people love me, right? I don't have an enemy in the world. As a matter of fact, it is, I asked somebody, a guy that was, trying to holler at me. I was like, I said, so what is it that, and I'll tell you the whole thing. I asked him, I said, what is it that attracted you to me? Or what did you find attractive about me? Now I know some of y'all might think, oh, Sandra, that's a stupid question. But I really wanted to know because I wanted to hear what his answer was. And he says, I think it's just your energy. I think it's the way that, that you just seem to have fun in life. He says, I think that that's what draws me. And I said to him, I said, well, the very thing that draws you on one level will be the very thing that you hate on the next, right? That's what I was telling him because I could feel it already. Like he wants to tell me, ramp it down, ratchet that down a little bit. And I'm thinking, oh, don't, trying to bring some shade in already. And I'm like, so if that's, sometimes it's the very thing that we love the most that then turns around and is the thing that we reject later on. So I like to be conscious about who I am, what I do, and why. Because I can feel the shade trees trying to move in some people's energy. Think about what it is that you bring into the world. Be clear on who you are. Even if you need to post it up like I got up here, be bold, right? Be bold about who you are, right? I'm sorry, I just keep saying right. You might be saying, nah, girl, that ain't me. It may not be you, but it's something to think about. I love when people are in love with themselves and they're not trying to hook their sail or hitch their boat onto somebody else's joy, right? We all ought to have our ability to generate, create, and maintain our own joy. Figure that out if you haven't, right? So in here, it says that we talked about the different dynamics. We talked about how sometimes this idea. So let me see. I need to check out and see where we were. So it says, regardless of the story we tell about our parents, how good or bad they are, how hurt we feel by what they did or didn't do. When we reject them, we limit our opportunities. So a lot of times we'll see people who go on all through life still blaming their parents. At a certain point, we've got to let go of this definition about what our parents did or didn't do and own where we are, right? One of the things I heard my brother tell somebody one time is that our parents didn't teach us about money. And, I could look at him and I was able to say, no, they may not have taught us a lot about money, but at a certain point in our lives, it's our responsibility to teach ourselves, right? It becomes our responsibility to do our own work, our own healing work. So whatever that may mean, if it means pick up a book, we can only teach people what we know. And I tell you, when you teach something, you learn it on a whole new level. So if it is that you feel like they shortchanged you, now the ball is in your court. What is it that you do? And stop blaming, right? It's nice to kind of get a grip and say, oh, I know what's missing in my life, right? I know what's missing here. And so when you know what's missing, then you are able then to do something about it, to offset to the deficit that you have, do something about it. So it says our relationships, and I talked about this because I love the word metaphor. Metaphor is simply when we switch out, like we may use an example, like I could run like a gazelle is a metaphor because it replaces something that we perceive as a fast thing, and it replaces it to demonstrate something else. And I said I never met a for I didn't like. A metaphor is an amazing thing because it gives us a direct illustration. He says when we reject our mother, we can unconsciously distance ourselves from the comforts of life. Mother, when we distance ourselves from them, we distance ourselves from the comforts of life. I ran into a guy the other day who had told me that he had real issues with his mother. This was back some months ago. Hadn't talked to him since. And then when I ran into him, it was like, he was like, oh, it's just too much to talk about. Oh, so much has happened. And I'm thinking to myself like, we have talked about what's missing when you reject your mother. So regardless of your thoughts about her, it is our responsibility to cultivate a relationship, even if we don't understand. Sometimes we've got to open ourselves up to different possibilities, hearing the story, breathing into their spaces, so maybe we understand a little bit better what is in back of some of the things that we experience. Security, safety, nurturance, care, all the elements associated with mothering can feel missing in our lives. Ooh, right? Security, safety, nurturing, care. All the things that is associated with mothering can feel like they're missing in our lives. No matter how much we have, we can feel like we never have enough. So if that, and remember the analogy that I used before is like when you're throwing stuff into a bottomless pit, there is nothing that ever fills up and can get you to the place where you are feeling like you are advancing. And so it is this thing that needs to happen in order for us to feel as if we are advancing. So you got to have a solid ground. The solid ground that we build up on is that that feeling of safety, care, nurturance, all of those things. The effect of rejecting a father is equally limiting, he says. A man, for instance, who rejects his father can experience himself as uncomfortable or self-conscious in the company of other men. Oh my goodness, that's good, right? A man, for instance, who rejects his father can experience himself as uncomfortable or self-conscious in the company of other men. Now, I don't know if you guys hear me sometimes when I use the term a man's man. I had a friend of mine's, well, I don't want to call her a friend of mine. It's a woman that I know. She was actually the sister-in-law of a man that I dated. And one of the things that she would say sometimes to me or to whoever was listening was this idea that I'm a woman's woman, right? I get along with women. I love women, right? She would just make that declaration. Now, I will say to people, I used to hear women that talked about they didn't like other women. I am not that one. I love and adore my sisters, but I don't know that I was to the level at which she presented herself. Even in that conversation, though, we talked about when people are sitting in their own truth or their own integrity, then that causes them to have a different level or relationship with the women that are around you. When you reject women, that are your own, you got to ask yourself, what is that about? And it's not the case, don't give me that it is the case that you perceive them all to be like you've been watching too much of the Housewives show. Because they are not all ratchet. They are not all drama filled. We are not all of that, right? And so the thing is if I trust myself and I'm stirring up my own gifts inside of me, if I'm doing my thing, what somebody else is doing is not necessarily my concern. I could sit in support and alignment and not be judging, because that's a lot of times what we do. We get caught up in our judgments. We get caught up in our feelings about stuff, and then we get caught in that, rejecting thing. He says here that a man is uncomfortable or unconscious in the company of other men when he doesn't have a good relationship with his father. So what then happens if you didn't even know your father, right? Or there's level of disrespect that we have for them, stuff that we've taken on that can cause this rejection. Let me read on. He can never find himself, he can even find himself, I'm sorry, it didn't say ever. He can even find himself hesitant or reluctant to embrace the responsibilities associated with being a father, regardless of whether or not his father was the family provider or the family failure. Let me read that again, because this is so big. This is so big, right? The effects of rejecting a father can be equally limiting. A man, for instance, who rejects his father can experience himself as uncomfortable or self-conscious in the company of other men. He can find himself hesitant or reluctant to embrace the responsibilities associated with being a father, regardless of whether or not his father was the family provider or the family failure. That's, okay. So I'm gonna I let that rest, right? I'm gonna let that rest with you, because only you know what your level, what your relationship is. If you're a man, only you know what your relationship is or was with your father, right? And if this rings true for you, then that just means that you got work to do, right? One of the things that Wayne Dwyer talked about was going out and really seeking to make peace with his own father, his father who was no longer on, embodied, his father who had made his transition, seeking peace with his father, right? What would that look like for you if that was part of your work to do? Unfinished business, he says, with either parent can cloud our work life as well as our social life. By unconsciously replaying unresolved family dynamics, we're likely to create conflicts instead of authentic connections. We're likely to create conflicts instead of authentic connections. Let me finish reading this. With old projections aimed at our bosses or coworkers, it can be difficult to flourish. There is this this thing called waiting for the other shoe to drop. It is almost like we anticipate, send out, and by anticipating, we're sending out like little stuff in our tomorrows, right? We send out these things that ensure that it will happen. So, say for instance, we have this idea that, let me give you an example. I talk often about a girlfriend that I had who had this perception that her boyfriends cheated on her, her husband cheated on her. And so this one day she met this guy that she was really, really feeling. And I remember this day so clearly because it was so like tripped out to me. She walks into the house where I was, and she says to me something stupid like, I want you to sleep with him so we could go ahead and get this over with. She didn't say it like that, but we could get this part out of the way so I don't have to worry about the hurt and pain of what could happen. And I'm looking at her like, girl, are you stupid? Like, first off, when I ain't that way. That ain't the way I roll. That is not even in my thought system. I'm not even attracted to whoever this is. Ain't my type. It ain't, I had absolutely nothing for that. That's not me, right? And so there was a part of me that was just like, and then there's like that, oh, baby, I'm so sorry that this is that this is your idea, this is your projection, and you don't realize that because you're carrying that energy, that fear with you, that's what you're going to continually experience because you're already putting it out there. I tell you, and it was so bad that, she would set herself up for it. It was just, and it's so sad. So, so there's this thing of always, sometimes people anticipate things going wrong instead of, just expecting or putting something new out there. There's work to do in that. I mean, I could have asked her the question, had I known or had I done this work before? Like, where did you get the message from that this is always the outcome? And that if you go ahead and orchestrate it, then you won't have your heart broken at some point. Where did that message come from? What was that experience? I know that even, as I unpacked my family history, I'm sitting there saying that this is in my family line too. I get that. But there's a whole different energy around that when this idea of anticipating it comes up and how we're going to deal with it when it happens. It just is really an interesting dynamic. And until we deal with it, right? Or make peace with it, or, like I was talking about early on, is I used to have to do work around this because when something bothers me, it becomes the place where I dig down deep. I'm not the one who has something in their life and I just ignore it as if it's there. It's like, no, we got to dig this sucker up. When they say even the dirt, even the rocks will cry out, I got to dig it up. I got to see. I got to sit with you. I got to know what is this about? So when I was dating this guy back in the day, and somebody, another friend of mine's, woman friend, came to me and told me that another friend because I got circles of friends. I have brought girlfriends together. It's part of my personality. I'm not, you know, I would always have these like prayer circles or groups where my friends would all meet. So all of my friends basically knew about or knew one another. So anyway, so my one friend comes and tells me that another friend of mine was messing with the guy that was my dude at the time. So of course, because I'm who I am, it's like it's on my mind, it's bothering me. So I say something to him. I want to understand. Like, is it true? And is this blah blah blah? And he got mad at me for asking, and basically said, I'm not having that conversation with you. And I'm thinking like, what? He's like, you think he turns it back on me. You think I would do that? Blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't, and all of this other stuff, but I wasn't getting it clear, like, making me it wasn't making me like feel any kind of way. So I go to her and I ask her, I heard that you I heard that every time I heard, right? And what it was is that they were going to lunch together because they started working at the same spot. They were going to lunch together, they were spending time together, blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking to myself, but neither one of them was telling me this. And I was talking to each of them all the time, but nobody was telling me anything except for this other friend that was out there. So I was having angst about it. So I go to him, go to her, go to him, go to her. And I'm just like, I was fraught. I was like, oh my God. So I started, this is how I process. It's like, let me go deep. Let me go deep with this. Let me figure this out because I needed to sit in that space and breathe. And I started saying to myself, what is it that, am I feeling as if, like, say, for instance, somebody has a work wife or a work husband or something like that? It, am I requiring this level of loyalty out of him? Am I worried about the conversations that they're having? Are they about me or is it about them? Am I worried about what he is doing with his body and and his dick, right? Am I worried about that? Is that my concern? Or is there something more about him other than this loyalty of what he's doing with his physical body? Is there something else to my relationship? So I was like unpacking all of the stuff about this, and I did not quit. I didn't stop wrestling with it until I found peace with it. I had to get to a place of peace because what I was saying to myself was this: I didn't want to um, stop talking to him or her based on a rumor that somebody else had told me, even though it was making me uncomfortable and anxious and all of this stuff. I wasn't, the ultimatum stuff was not going to be the way that I worked because, these are part of my crew. I mean, he in my life was like, it's like going from a black and white TV into color. I mean, like technicolor, right? And her in my life was, she brought so much because there was so much about her energy that was so real and beautiful and authentic. And it's like I like to have the pieces and parts that I have gathered, like yeah, because they bring different energies into my life. I love that. And so I needed to find a place of peace in what I was going through. And so I kept digging deep and asking myself questions. And if it's only myself that I could work on, because both of them was, acting like, how you going, both of them were acting, tripped out about it. And I was not getting any resolution. And so I really needed to sit in that until I found my place of peace. So, and you know, it's interesting because I don't, you know, peace is a spiritual thing, right? It's a spiritual thing. And unless we get all the, you know, the gunk out of it, we can't get there. So I needed to find that place. So whatever it is, if you are anticipating it, then that means that you are calling it forth. You call forth the experiences, and those experiences will keep challenging you until you become master of that. So if it's, you know, if it's that you got if you got a thing about you think everybody is being disloyal to you, or everything ever is somebody is always trying to offend you or put you down or not respect you, or you know, all of these things, consider that that is your energy, that is the energy that you project into the world, and that people have no choice. And it's not even their doing, it's how you perceive whatever they say. Whatever you receive will be just that for you. So like you people used to talk about this thing about dissing me. They disrespected me, right? So then everything, whatever you do, no matter what, even if you unintendedly stepped on a foot or unintentionally did something, you'll take it as if, oh, they dissing me, right? That because that's your set point, that's your perception. That's your expectation. That's the energy that you carry with you. And so no matter what they do, that will be your perception of it. When you start working at dealing with the way you see things, what you see changes. That's a Wayne Dwyer, I do believe. If you change the way you look at things, what you look at will change. So you know, it's how do I change my own energy? And sometimes it is doing the mirror work, starting to say I love you, starting to, you know, build yourself up, whatever that may mean. Looking at what it is that is your biggest fear. They'll reject me, he'll cheat on me. You know, I don't deserve this. Start working at your fear. Where did this come from? Whose is it? How do I give it back? How do I get rid of it? How do I dilute it? How do I change it? How do I shift it? Right? If you need to go get help, go get help. But if it's something that you know you can do, right? Then do what you can do. I tell you, and I was doing this work before I even learned that it was the work to do. I didn't, yeah, it is because you know, I am the captain of my ship, right? I'm the captain of my ship. And so that means that I am going to do my own work. I'm going to do my own mental work. I mean, I can, like I said, I can remember days in college where I was just laying flat on my back, looking up at the world and saying, "Wait a minute, I'm letting a car define who I am. Hold up, one darn minute. I'm more than that. I'm more than that. I am not the car that I'm driving. I'm not what you think about my hair. I'm not what you think about my body. I'm more than that." Right? And that's something that, you know, each and every one of us can do. Sometimes you just gotta, and as Stephanie would say, don't say just, okay. But you just gotta do the work. All right, so I am off of here. I am off of here. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. I am so glad that we had this discussion. Yeah, we are going to pick right back up here tomorrow. This was this thing is really good. It, you know, just search your soul. You might say, like even with me, I loved my mother and my father, right? And I would say I had a great relationship with them. But if I didn't own the fact that my dad was really critical about me, um, I did the work while he was alive to move beyond the criticisms. I trained myself how to talk to and have a relationship with my father so that I didn't walk in that house feeling like I was a pin cushion. I did my own work. This is your work to do so that you get to a place of love and acceptance, love and happiness, right? About your parents, because they are, if you think about it, that umbilical cord is still you. It may have been cut, but that energy that flows from your mama to you is still flowing directly to you. It is still, and you need it. You need it. So, yes, 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 yes. All right. So, y'all, I am out of here. I hope you have an amazing hump day Wednesday. Hump day. Right. Yesterday, all of this rain has been so good. So good, so good. But of course, you know, it does some stuff, right? So everything is, you know, the grass needs cutting. The dogs didn't get walked. Well, I did walk them yesterday late afternoon, but it was a different one than I have in the morning times when I walk them. So do your thing. It's your thing. Uh, anyway, I love and adore y'all. Thank you for being here. And I will see you tomorrow, God willing, and the creek don't rise. All right. Blessings to you. I have Dr. Brown tomorrow too at 11 o'clock. So yeah, blessings. Blessings all over you, all over your life. Just do this. It's hard at first. Don't get me wrong. It's hard, but shit. Ah, doesn't it look good?